Disney Cars 3, A New Racer. It was the first race of the season. Fans cheered as the cars headed toward the finish line. Out in front was number 95, Lightning McQueen. Lightning's friends, Bobby Swift, Cal Weathers, and Brick Yardley followed close behind. With a final burst of speed, Lightning surged past the finish line for the win. Ka-chow! Lightning's season was off to a great start. He kept winning races. Then, at the Motor Speedway of the South, a rookie racer blew past him. The new car's name was Jackson Storm. After the race, Lightning congratulated Storm on his win. "Thank you, Mr. McQueen," Storm said. "You have no idea what a pleasure it is for me to finally beat you." "Thanks," Lightning said. Then he paused. "Wait, did you say meet or beat?" Storm smirked. "I think you heard me." Jackson Storm was part of a new generation of high-tech race cars, built to be fastest than the cars that had come before. He and the other next-gens won race after race. Soon, veteran racers began retiring or losing their sponsors. At the starting line of the final race of the season, Storm mocked Lightning. "Hey champ, where'd y'all friends go?" Lightning glared at Storm. He was determined to beat the next gen. But in the last lap of the race, he pushed himself too hard and his tire blew out. As Lightning rolled over and over, his whole world went black. In the month that followed, Lightning recovered from the crash. He was physically ready to race again, but he wondered if maybe it was time to retire. Lightning thought about his mentor, Doc Hudson. Doc was one of the best racers of his time, but a devastating crash had ended his racing career early. Lightning made a choice. He wasn't going to be pushed out of racing like Doc. He would decide when he was done for himself. When Lightning told his sponsors, Rusty and Dusty of Rusty's, that he would race again next season, they were thrilled. They had just made a deal to get Lightning a new training center so he could train on the same equipment as the next gens. But to do it, they had sold Rusty's to a business car named Sterling. Sterling greeting Lightning. He was thrilled to meet the race car. Sterling took Lightning on a tour of the facility. All the training equipment was very high-tech, including a racing simulator. Lightning watched in awe as a sleek yellow race car zoomed through a simulating course. Curious, he turned to Sterling. "Who's the racer?" he asked. No. She's a trainer," Sterling said. "Cruz Ramirez, best training in the business." Sterling introduced the two of them. Cruz wasn't impressed by Lightning. She thought he looked old and broken down. Lightning was offended. Cruz smiled. She had been trying to make Lightning mad. She told him to use his anger as motivation. Over the next few weeks, Cruz led Lightning through a series of simple training exercises. She didn't think Lightning was ready for the simulator. Lightning disagreed. He hopped on the simulator and crashed through its screen. Sterling thought Lightning's racing career was over. He wanted Lightning to retire and focus on making money for the 95 brand. Lightning pleaded for one last chance. He was sure he could win if he trained properly. Sterling was skeptical, but finally he agreed, on one condition. If Lightning lost, he would retire. Lightning headed to Fireball Beach to restart his training. Cruz went along to track his speed. Lightning thought if he trained on dirt the same way he had with Doc, he would improve. Cruz was supposed to be right beside him, tracking his speed, but she was back at the starting line, spinning her wheels. She had never raced on sand before. Lightning gave her some tips. Finally, Cruz managed to race across the beach with Lightning, but Lightning's top speed was still slower than Jackson Storm's. Lightning decided he needed to train against other racers, so he and Cruz went to the Thunder Hollow Speedway. Lightning disguised himself and signed up for the next race. It wasn't until the gates closed that Lightning realized that it wasn't a traditional race. It was the Thunder Hollow Crazy 8 Demolition Derby, where cars smashed into each other. Cruz watched from the infield until the cars came after her too. Everyone wanted a piece of the newcomers. Cruz was terrified. Lightning shouted racing tips to her and drew the other cars away. At the end of the race, Cruz was declared the winner. After the race, Lightning lashed out at Cruz. He still hadn't improved his speed because he was too busy taking care of her. "This is my last chance, Cruz," he shouted. "If I lose, I never get to do this again. If you were a racer, you would know what I'm talking about, but you're not." Cruz turned away. She explained that she had always wanted to be a racer, but in her first race, she had felt out of place. The other cars were bigger and stronger than she was. When they started their engines, she knew. "I could never compete. I just left," Cruz said. Lightning apologized. He hadn't meant to hurt Cruz's feelings. The next day, Lightning and Cruz went to the famous Thomasville Speedway. Lightning wanted to ask Doc's old crew chief, Smokey, to train him. When they got there, they met Smokey. 3 of racing's biggest legends, Junior Midnight Moon, River Scott, and Louise Barnstormer Nash, were there too. Lightning told Smokey that he didn't want to end up the same way Doc had. Smokey led Lightning to his garage. The letters Doc had sent him while he was Lightning's crew chief hung on the wall. Smokey smiled. Racing wasn't the best part of Hud's life. You were. Smokey agreed to train Lightning if he faced the facts. He would never be faster than Storm, but he could be smarter than that he was. Smokey asked Cruz to stand in as Jackson Storm during Lightning's training. The legends modified Cruz for racing. She revved her engine and practiced her trash talking. Smokey trained Lightning the same way he had trained Doc Hudson. The other legends helped too. They did sprints and drills to practice getting through a crowd of racers. Smokey put Lightning and Cruz in a field of stampeding tractors. It was hard on Lightning and challenged him to push himself. After weeks of training, it was nearly time for the big race, but Smokey had one more test for Lightning, an all-out race against Cruz. The two stayed close together around the track. As they neared the finish line, Lightning gave it everything he had, but it wasn't enough. With a burst of speed, Cruz crossed the line ahead of him. Lightning couldn't believe it. How had he lost? Finally, the day of the Florida 500 race arrived. Lightning felt nervous as he got into position. His whole racing career was on the line. The starting flag dropped and the race began. Smokey and Cruz cheered Lightning on over the headset. Suddenly, Lightning heard Sterling talking to Cruz. He told her to go back to the training center where she belonged. She was a trainer, not a racer. Lightning had said the same thing, but he realized he was wrong. Cruz had been awesome on the simulator, on the beach, and on the track at Thomasville. She had always been a racer at heart. Suddenly, there was a crash right in front of Lightning. He turned and headed for the pit. Lightning asked Cruz to meet him there. The pit crew started working on Lightning, but he told them to work on Cruz instead. The crew gave Cruz new tires, a paint job, and a number 95. Cruz was completely confused. Lightning smiled. He wanted to give her the chance to show the world that she was a racer. Sterling was furious, but Cruz hit the gas and raced to catch up with the pack. As Cruz sped around the track, Lightning gave Smokey advice to pass along to Cruz. Finally, Smokey passed Lightning the crew chief headset. Lightning coached Cruz around the track, reminding her of all she had learned. He told her to remember what it was like racing through the herd of tractors. If she saw a gap between cars, she had to take it. Cruz saw an opening and shot through. The crowd began cheering for the new 95. With only a few laps left, Cruz moved up until she was just one car behind the leader, Jackson Storm. Storm dropped back to taunt Cruz. He didn't think she deserved to be in the race. She would never be a racer. Storm's words hit Cruz hard and she slowed down, falling behind Storm. But Lightning wasn't about to let Cruz lose. He knew that Storm was just scared of her. Lightning urged her on. He believed she could win. Cruz felt her confidence return and sped up until she was right behind Storm. The next gen tried to lose her, but he couldn't. Just then, Cruz made a move to pass Storm on the outside. Storm viciously slammed into her, pushing Cruz into the wall. He wanted her off the track. Driving up the wall, Cruz flipped over Storm. She came down in the first place and sprinted across the finish line. The crowd went wild. The leaderboard showed the winner as McQueen Cruz. Because Cruz and Lightning both raced wearing the number 95, they had both won the race. Sterling couldn't believe it. Lightning didn't have to retire. Back in Radiator Springs, Lightning and Cruz raced around Willie's butt. Cruz was now part of Tex Dynaco's race team. She had even taken Doc Hudson's old number 51.